ever read a book and when you were asked about it a few days later, you literally can remember nothing? And you begin to wonder, why waste your time reading in the first place? Now, if you had the same problem, you were not alone. For a really long time, I also faced this problem. And in my 10 years of active reading, from self-help books to articles, all the way to medical books while I was in medical school, I had always faced the same issue, and that is forgetting. Now in this video, you're gonna learn 6 hacks that will help you remember what you read, apply it, and never waste another book again. Now let's get into it. Now the first point in this video is read to digest, not just to consume. Reading is kind of like eating. It's not just what goes in that matters, but what stays in. Now, if you ate and in 10 minutes time, it came out the other way, that would be considered a medical emergency because your body, for some reason, is not giving the food enough time to digest. Now, taking the time to pause and digest what you read can do wonders to your ability in actually remembering what you've read. And that is the main difference between passive learning and active learning. Passive learning basically involves you just consuming the information and hoping that by some stroke of luck, you will remember something when you're asked, which, if I'm being honest, you probably would forget most of the material in about 2 weeks. But active learning is when you are actively engaging with the material and thinking about the information you have just consumed. Now, a good way to actually apply this when you read or learn anything is by asking yourself these 2 questions. What was the main idea and how can I use this today? Now, the next point is using the 2-7-30 rule. Now, spaced repetition is actually a really powerful tool in helping you to convert things you learn from short-term memory into your long-term memory. Now, how does this rule work? After you finish learning any material, you wait 2 days and then you review the material. And after that review, you wait another 7 days from the first time you read the material to review the material again. And after that, you wait 30 days from the first time you read the material to review it one more time. Now, why this interval of 2, 7, and 30 days? Now, this is because it helps you to offset something called the forgetting curve. Now, you may be wondering, what the hell is the forgetting curve? The forgetting curve was actually discovered by a German psychologist known as Hermann Ebbinghaus. And he wanted to find out the rate at which humans forgot things. He basically carried out an experiment on himself where he tried to memorize random syllables, and over time he determined the rate at which he forgot those syllables, and hence the forgetting curve was born. And the really interesting thing is that humans, we don't forget linearly, we forget exponentially. So it actually looks something like this. A day after you've learned something, you will most likely forget 50% of everything that you've learned. And in 7 days, you would only be able to retain 10% of what you've learned. And in 30 days, you would literally forget everything if you do not review it. Well, now what this 2-7-30 rule helps you to do is that it helps you nullify the effects of this forgetting curve and encodes that information from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. And a really cool tool that can help you do this is by using flashcards or spaced repetition apps like Anki. Now, these tools will actually help you if you want to apply this in your learning or in your studying. The next point is summarize what you learn in 3 sentences or less. Now, if you cannot explain something simply, you simply do not understand it. The process of summarizing what you studied actually compresses the knowledge and forces your brain to prioritize. And when you summarize, it actually forces you to think deeper about what you've read and what are the most important parts of what you've read. And according to Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive levels, when you summarize, you are actually operating at the highest level because you are forced to engage the creation level of the pyramid. And when you actually exert yourself to that level of the pyramid, it makes it a lot easier to encode that information into your long-term memory. Now, the next point is link it to what you already know. Now, the fact is, your brain remembers connections more than it would remember some completely random fact that is isolated on its own. Now, imagine I was telling you about the mechanism by which your eyes tends to view far and near objects. And I was explaining the fact that your ciliary muscles contracting or relaxing, which then changes the focal length of your lenses. Now, if you had no idea about the anatomy of the eye, what I'm saying would sound like nonsense. But if I were to link that piece of information to what you already know, like using a camera, for example, you will notice that when you turn the lens of the camera, it manually changes the focal length of the lens that you're using, which makes with the image that you want to view closer or bigger. Now, that is actually the same way your eyes work. The ciliary muscle actually functions when it contracts and relaxes. It changes the focal length of your lenses, giving you the ability to see both far and near objects. Now, when you make associations like these, it makes remembering what you learn a lot easier and less of a struggle because you are making connections to information that is already solidified in your brain. The next point is teach it to someone else. Now, teaching actually forces clarity. When you teach someone something, you actually begin to discover the things you did not know or gaps in your knowledge. And the best way to actually do this is by a technique called the Feynman technique, which originated from a renowned physicist called Richard Feynman. Now, this technique basically involves 4 steps. Now, the first step is to pick a topic. Then the second step is to teach that topic like you were teaching it to a 12-year-old. And if you don't have 12-year-olds lying around, you could teach it to yourself. But why it's important to teach it like you were teaching a 12-year-old is because you'll be forced not to use technical jargon, because these are the filler words that you use to actually cover your ignorance if you do not truly understand something. But if you were to teach it to a 12-year-old, you'll be forced to make the explanation a lot simpler, and in the process of doing that, it forces you to think deeply about what you're saying. Now, the third step of this technique is to then proceed to find out the gaps in your knowledge, the areas in that topic where you were not fully able to articulate in a really simple form. To a 12-year-old, if you have one lying around, or not lying around, but like if you have like I think you get the point. And the last step is to actually fill in those gaps in your knowledge and then teach it again until you have a really solid base of understanding. The next point is to read books that you can apply now. If I were to read a book on how to raise a 3-month-old child, first of all, I don't have children, and second, I do not even have children around me. And before I'll be able to apply that knowledge, it's gonna take some time. Now, in contrast, if I were to read a book on how to understand viewer psychology, now that is a piece of information that I can literally apply today, right? When I'm making this video even, because it's something that is related to my current situation. We remember more when we are able to apply the things that we learn. Reading books that helps you to solve a current problem would be more beneficial than reading books just for the sake of reading books. When you read anything, a good question to always ask yourself is, how can I apply this information to my current problems? Our wisdom nugget for the week: be you doers of the word and not just hearers only, deceiving your own selves. So guys, which of these tricks will you try next? You can put it out in the comment section, and please guys, don't forget to like, subscribe and share if you think this video is going to be helpful to your friends. And guys, one of the main things that really stands in the way of you actually maximizing your potential while studying or doing anything is laziness. So if you're interested, here's the video about 7 habits that keep you lazy and how you can break them. And like always guys, remember to always keep it real. Bye guys.